The city hums with its quiet, sleepless pulse. A woman stands before a velvet box, its lid trembling slightly in her hand, as though the air itself hesitates to reveal what's inside. Inside, the ring gleams a delicate circle of gold, the same one that once sealed a vow spoken under sunlight and champagne. Only now, it lies beneath fluorescent glare, lifeless, counterfeit, cold. Somewhere across town, laughter echoes a man's, charming and hollow, and a woman's sweet but unsure. The ring had passed from one hand to another, traded like a secret meant to stay hidden. But secrets rot in the light. What he gave away was more than metal. It was proof of everything she no longer wanted to believe. And soon, someone else would discover that truth glitters only, until it's appraised. Morning rises with the soft ache of exhaustion. Evelyn's phone hums across the countertop, slicing through the fragile quiet. Her body moves before her mind does, as though habit and heartbreak share the same pulse. The voice on the other end is unfamiliar, polite, apologetic, but the words cut clean. We completed the appraisal. The ring isn't real. The world seems to shrink, sound collapsing into static. She doesn't cry. She only stares at the faint reflection of herself in the dark phone screen, seeing the stranger she's become. Outside, the city is indifferent, traffic sighing, sunlight pretending warmth. Somewhere, Lucas must still believe the lie holds, that gold-plated promises can outshine truth. But for Evelyn, the air itself has changed thinner now, sharper. The first fracture of silence before something breaks. Sabrina stares at her reflection, but the mirror doesn't return her the same woman. She's still beautiful, that's what he always told her, yet beneath the smooth hair and lipstick sheen, she sees a flicker of mockery. The ring sits on her vanity, its brilliance now poisoned by the jeweler's verdict. Fake. A word that gnaws. Her apartment smells of perfume and wilted roses, gifts sent to soften guilt. She wonders what it meant to him, if it was convenience or cruelty to give her something hollow. The woman in the mirror tilts her head slightly, as if to ask, "Do you see it now?" She does. And in that instant, love curdles into anger so sharp it tastes like blood. Lucas adjusts his tie in the office restroom, his reflection crisp, immaculate, and hollow. Every move is practiced, precise, the ritual armor of a man who's mastered performance. The phone buzzes in his pocket, but he doesn't check it. He already knows who's calling. The world sees him as composed, charismatic, untouched by consequence. Inside, a pulse of unease grows louder, the faint recognition that his control is slipping. He smiles into the mirror, testing the expression, rehearsing sincerity. It almost looks real. For a moment, he imagines both women staring into their own mirrors and wonders if reflections can conspire against him. The first call goes unanswered. The second, too. On the third, Evelyn lets it ring out, her finger hovering above decline. She doesn't know the number, but instinct whispers its origin. When the voicemail arrives, the voice is soft, uncertain, a woman's, breaking on her own name. The words come haltingly. "He gave me your ring. I didn't know." Silence follows, long and trembling. Evelyn stands in her living room, surrounded by pieces of a life she suddenly doesn't recognize. Anger doesn't come yet, only the eerie calm of clarity, like the stillness before a thunderstorm that's already formed somewhere out of sight. The text arrives late afternoon, a single message glowing on Evelyn's screen. "We need to talk, please." No name, just the weight of recognition in those words. She should ignore it. She does. There's something haunting about the idea of her, the other woman, carrying the same confusion, the same ache. Betrayal binds them more intimately than love ever did. As she types her reply, her hands tremble not with fear but with anticipation. The city outside hums with muted dusk, streetlights flickering alive one by one. The truth is no longer something she can run from. It's moving toward her, breathing her name in a stranger's voice. They meet in a cafe too quiet for comfort. The sound of spoons against porcelain becomes an anchor for their nerves. Evelyn arrives first, posture straight, every breath rehearsed. When Sabrina enters, there's a brief, unbearable silence, recognition without introduction. Both women have imagined this, though never like this. No raised voices, no tears. Just two hearts dissecting the same lie from opposite ends. The conversation begins softly, circling the truth like wary animals. When the ring appears on the table between them, its false brilliance gleams like a witness. In that glint, they see not each other's enemy, but the ghost of the man who made them both believe. Lucas believes control is a matter of timing. Speak first. Admit nothing. Stay ahead of the story. But the silence from both women has begun to gnaw at him. His office feels smaller today, the city below less certain. He rereads old messages, the digital residue of deceit, promises recycled, affection copy-pasted. Somewhere a ring has been exposed, and with it the architecture of his lies. He straightens his tie, checks his reflection, and smiles, that same practiced expression meant to disarm. But something in his eyes betrays him this time. For the first time, the man in the mirror doesn't believe him either. The rain arrives without warning, sudden and absolute. The two women walk together beneath its curtain, neither speaking, sharing an umbrella that feels too small for the enormity of what binds them. Sabrina finally breaks the silence, her voice trembling soft. "I didn't know about you." Evelyn doesn't answer. She doesn't need to. The truth sits between them, heavy as the sky. For the first time, Sabrina sees in Evelyn not judgment, but understanding, the quiet strength of someone who has already survived the worst. The rain hides their tears, or perhaps the sky weeps for them. By the time they part, something unspoken has begun, a fragile alliance forged in ruin. That night, Evelyn returns home and finds his spare key still hanging by the door, a relic of convenience now turned into a symbol of trespass. She takes it down and sets it on the counter beside the ring box, their silence speaking louder than any confrontation could. Tomorrow will bring decisions, confessions, perhaps destruction. But tonight, she allows herself a small, steady breath, the kind that belongs to someone reclaiming space once haunted by lies. Somewhere, Lucas will notice the silence spreading like cracks in glass. And somewhere else, Sabrina will sleep without illusions. The storm outside fades, but its echo remains inside her chest, the rhythm of freedom beginning to form. Morning arrives brittle and gray, the kind of light that reveals rather than forgives. Lucas wakes before dawn, expecting the usual order of things: the email pings, the coffee, the control. Instead, there's absence. No messages from either woman, no soft reassurance of power maintained. Silence fills the penthouse like fog, seeping into every mirror, every reflection of his careful life. The coffee tastes bitter, metallic. He tells himself he isn't worried, but his pulse betrays him, quick, erratic. Somewhere in that quiet, the lie he built begins to breathe on its own, growing larger, louder, until even the city's hum cannot drown it out. The call comes mid-morning, not from Evelyn or Sabrina, but from his assistant, her voice trembling the way people do when they've heard rumors but not yet the truth. The firm is investigating discrepancies, a client fund, some missing numbers, the first thread of something he thought he'd buried well. As she speaks, his gaze drifts to the skyline again, where sunlight catches on glass towers that gleam like judgment. He ends the call politely, even warmly, but inside his stomach turns to stone. Lies multiply the way reflections do, endless, shimmering, impossible to contain once cracked. Sabrina spends the day replaying every word Lucas ever said. The tone of his laughter, the small pauses that now sound rehearsed. The truth reshapes everything, even memory. What once felt tender now feels scripted. She scrolls through old messages, her own words bleeding with sincerity beside his hollow replies. She realizes the ring wasn't the only imitation she was. The thought doesn't break her. It clarifies her. Beneath the humiliation, something steadier grows, not revenge, not yet, but clarity sharpened into purpose. She deletes every photo, every message, then takes a long breath and feels, for the first time, the quiet power of letting him vanish. Evelyn sits by her window long into the night, writing a letter she knows she will never send. The pen scratches across the paper, each word a quiet exorcism of the past. She writes not to him, but to the version of herself that believed him, the woman who mistook performance for devotion. The words flow steady, unsparing, until the page feels like a mirror that no longer lies. When she finishes, she folds it neatly, slides it into an envelope, and places it in the drawer beside the fake ring. Sometimes closure isn't a confrontation. Sometimes it's the grace of silence. By week's end, Lucas feels the shift, not loud, but certain. Conversations stop when he enters the room. Colleagues exchange glances that linger too long. His assistant's smile falters. The walls themselves seem to hold secrets, echoing back the sound of his footsteps like a countdown. He spends more time in the restroom mirror now, fixing a tie that no longer gives him shape. The illusion is fraying. He can feel it, the empire he built from charm and deceit, beginning to expose its scaffolding. What he doesn't yet know is that silence isn't absence. It's a storm gathering just beyond hearing. They meet again, not as strangers, but as survivors orbiting the same wound. The cafe feels smaller this time, the air thick with quiet understanding. No pretense now, no competition, no apology, just truth, stripped and trembling. Evelyn speaks first, her voice calm, almost gentle. "We both deserve to know everything." Sabrina nods, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup like a nervous prayer. Between them, the counterfeit ring gleams faintly, less a symbol now than a weapon. Two women wronged by the same man, breathing in sync for the first time. What begins as shared pain starts to take shape as something else, intent. The plan forms slowly, cautiously. Evelyn knows his patterns, where he hides things, what he guards. Sabrina knows his tone, the way he lies, the rhythm of his confidence. Together, they trace the outlines of his deception like cartographers of betrayal. They comb through messages, financial records, whispered recollections, building a map of the empire he built on borrowed promises. For every falsified number, every forged gesture, they feel their fear dissolve. The truth is no longer something that haunts them, it's something they can wield. What he took from them wasn't just love, it was trust. What they're about to reclaim is power. Is me. By nightfall, they know what they must do. Words won't wound him, exposure will. Evelyn drafts the message, every sentence a blade she sharpens carefully. Sabrina watches, silent but certain, her expression unreadable. They won't confront him in person yet. They'll let the truth find him in the same quiet way his lies found them. When the email sends evidence attached, sent to the board of his firm, neither woman speaks. The silence between them feels sacred now, not haunted. Somewhere in the city, a man will open his inbox and feel the ground shift. For them, the night feels lighter, almost merciful. The fallout begins within hours. Headlines bloom like bruises across digital feeds. Marital scandal tied to financial misconduct. Lucas's name threads through them all, paired with words like fraud, affair, collapse. Evelyn watches from her living room, not with triumph, but with the stillness of someone watching the tide recede after years of drowning. Sabrina calls, her voice a trembling mix of disbelief and relief. Neither laughs, neither gloats. They just breathe together long, deliberate, and free. Sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes is the sound of silence finally belonging to you. Lucas returns home to silence so vast it feels alive. The city lights shimmer through the glass, fractured and distant. His phone vibrates endlessly, calls unanswered, messages from partners, clients, friends suddenly speaking in cautious tones. He drops his keys on the marble counter and stands still, listening. Somewhere beneath the hum of the refrigerator, he swears he can hear something cracking. Maybe it's the foundation of everything is built. Maybe it's himself. The ring is gone, the women gone, and the mirror no longer flatters him. He finally understands the weight of glass, beautiful until it shatters. Lucas walks into the firm's glass atrium beneath the weight of 1,000 reflections. Cameras wait outside, whispers flicker inside. His name, once currency, now echoes like accusation. Every mirror surface turns traitor, returning his face fractured by the angles of truth. The boardroom doors close behind him with a finality that feels like burial. He answers questions he doesn't remember hearing. The lies that once felt elegant now sound childish spoken aloud. Somewhere in him, denial fights for breath. But it's already too late. The empire built on reflections collapses under the light that once made it shine. Evelyn doesn't plan to watch, but the news plays anyway, his face framed by headlines, his voice reduced to sound bites of apology. She sits perfectly still. The faint buzz of the television, the only sound in her apartment. The anchor lists his charges, his resignation, the downfall that feels both distant and intimate. When the segment ends, she mutes the screen. The silence that follows is the cleanest sound she's ever heard. She realizes revenge was never the goal, it was clarity. And in the quiet after destruction, she finally feels the space to begin again. Sabrina doesn't watch the news. She stands on her balcony instead, cigarette trembling between her fingers, watching the city shimmer beneath the dusk. For months, she built her life around the gravity of him, every plan, every heartbeat tethered to his approval. Now, there's only air, raw and liberating. She exhales smoke and laughter together, the kind that sounds like mourning but tastes like freedom. Somewhere behind her, the television murmurs the sound of his fall. But she's already moved past it. The city feels enormous again, dangerous, alive. Hers. He calls once, then again. Neither woman answers. When his messages arrive, apologies stitched from panic, they remain unread. In the silence, he begins to understand the difference between being missed and being remembered. He drives to the river at night, the one that used to shimmer beneath their favorite restaurant, and watches the water swallow the city lights. For a brief, reckless moment, he considers jumping not to die, but to disappear. But even vanishing requires courage he no longer possesses. The bridge stands still, patient, while he finally learns what it feels like to be truly alone. Morning finds Evelyn walking through the city, the world newly washed by rain. She passes newsstands with his face on every cover and feels nothing, not triumph, not sorrow, just distance. She stops at a small jewelry store, the same one where truth was first revealed, and hands the jeweler a new piece, a simple silver band, unadorned. Not gold, she says softly. Something real. He nods. When she slips it onto her own finger later, it feels weightless. She smiles, faint and free. Some fires destroy. Hers has done both. Hers has done both. Evelyn's apartment feels larger now. The absence of him no longer aches, it breathes. The once cluttered corners hum with stillness. And for the first time, she doesn't rush to fill it. She cooks herself breakfast, humming softly to music, playing low from an old speaker. The day moves gently, unhurried, the sunlight spilling through her windows in sheets of pale gold. Healing, she realizes, isn't a revelation, it's repetition. Small, quiet choices made over and over until the hurt dulls into memory. The coffee tastes different now, warmer, steadier. So does the air. Sabrina walks through the city she once avoided. Every corner, every cafe held echoes of him until she decided to reclaim them. She visits each place not as memory, but as witness to her own survival. She orders coffee from the same barista, sits by the same window, but now the reflection in the glass belongs entirely to her. The city hasn't changed, she has. There's power in that realization, a pulse of ownership beneath her skin. She doesn't need to forgive him to be free. Freedom came the moment she stopped asking why and began walking forward. Lucas's penthouse sits half-packed, a mausoleum of possessions without meaning. He wanders through rooms once filled with echoing laughter and false certainty. Realtors will come tomorrow. Today, he lingers. There's no sound but the ticking of a distant clock. He stares out at the skyline, the same view that once convinced him he was untouchable, and feels nothing but exhaustion. He is not ruined, not yet, but he's hollowed, stripped of illusion. For the first time in years, he doesn't reach for his reflection. He lets it fade in the window, faceless among the city lights. Evelyn finds the letter one night while cleaning the one she wrote and never sent. The handwriting is steady, deliberate, full of old pain that no longer belongs to her. She reads it once, twice, and smiles softly. The words no longer sting. They feel distant, almost kind. She folds it again and takes it to the balcony, watching the city shimmer below. With one breath, she lights a match and lets the paper burn. The flame curls along the edges, erasing the woman she used to be. The ashes scatter in the wind, and the night exhales with her. The world continues as it always does. Months later, Evelyn meets Sabrina again, by chance at a gallery opening, laughter echoing in a room full of color. There's no heaviness now, only warmth, recognition. They speak briefly, promise to call, and when they part, it feels final but beautiful. Outside, the city hums beneath soft rain, washing everything new again. Evelyn turns toward the window display, a painting of a silver ring on a dark background. She smiles, almost laughs. Some symbols haunt you until they free you. The future, she realizes, doesn't glitter, it glows. Evelyn sorts through old photographs, each one a memory suspended in false light. Smiles that once held meaning now look rehearsed. Moments that felt eternal now flicker, like old film reels losing color. She removes one photo from its frame, the wedding portrait, and for the first time doesn't feel pain. Only distance. The woman in that picture no longer exists. She places a new photo in its place. Herself at the seaside, wind in her hair, laughter unposed. Closure, she realizes, isn't the absence of memory. It's choosing which ones to keep framed. Outside, the city feels lighter. The season has turned autumn, giving way to the soft promise of winter. Evelyn walks through the park, each breath visible in the chill, her steps unhurried. She watches strangers laughing, children chasing pigeons, a musician playing beneath bare trees. Life, she thinks, is so ordinary it's miraculous. For years, she mistook love for spectacle. Now she understands it's in these small, unremarkable mercies, the air, the laughter, the ability to start over without bitterness. The world, once a stage for her pain, has become a place to simply exist. Lucas lives in a smaller apartment now. No marble, no glass, no echoes. The silence here is different, not punishment, but consequence. He works quietly, keeps to himself. Some nights he stands by the window watching the city pulse with indifferent light, trying to remember what sincerity felt like. He doesn't call them. He wouldn't know what to say. Redemption isn't a speech. It's a life lived differently. For now, he practices honesty in small ways. Paying debts, keeping promises, speaking less. The glass no longer flatters him. It reflects. What's left a man learning the slow art of being real? Evelyn writes again, but this time not to the past, to the future. The letter is short, tender, filled with small promises. To trust slowly, to love freely, to forgive herself, forever mistaking illusion for intimacy. When she finishes, she folds it neatly and slips it into her journal. She doesn't seal it. She doesn't need to. This isn't a farewell, it's a beginning written in her own hand. Outside, the night deepens, but the city glows steady beyond her window. There's no storm left in her, only light dawn. The city exhales in pale gold and silver. Evelyn stands by her window as the sun rises, its light spilling through the glass that once symbolized confinement and illusion. She opens it wide. The air rushes in cool, alive, endless. Somewhere, Sabrina wakes to the same morning. Somewhere else, Lucas faces another day. Their stories have unknotted, yet remain bound by the invisible thread of what they survive. Evelyn smiles, a real, unguarded smile, the kind that doesn't hide pain but transcends it. The light touches her face, her hands. The silver ring she wears no longer an emblem of love lost, but of truth kept.